Now here is an extraordinary case for you to consider. In case you're an armchair detective, this one is a good one. Somebody, a foreign national, is abducted on Kenyan soil, actually in Nairobi, in Kilimani, Chaka Place, and then within 4 short hours, they are released. You umesikia wapi? Where have you heard of a similar case? Because in the motherland, this thing of government agents abducting people has almost become normal. There are so many cases, especially immediately after the June protests by the Gen Zs. Now cast your mind back, because there have been so many cases. Which case have you heard where somebody has been taken, and then within 4 short hours, they have been released? And so, my friends, this case of Tanzanian activist Maria Sarungi Tsehai, iko kitu. There is a very big story here. And I'm not very sure that I can tell the whole story here, but I will try my best. Because this is the kind of story, believe it or not, where there's vitima wires scattered all over the floor. And you have to tread carefully, because you know what will happen when you step on a live wire, live with electricity. But why don't we start with the facts of the case first? Okay? Maria goes out to the hair salon at around 3 p.m. and everything is normal until she notices some lady passing by who is wearing a mask. I'm sure nakumbuka zile masks za homa za mchina. You remember those? And of course this makes her wonder what is going on. And when she comes out of the hair salon, she's grabbed by 3 men and put into a black Toyota Noah vehicle. Of course she resists and she really fights. You know, even if it was you, and you're Tanzanian, and you know that you may end up in the hands of some people called Usalama wa Taifa, that is the NIS of Tanzania. Actually, it is more accurate to compare it with our old special branch, because they have powers to arrest. Our NIS officers here do not have powers to arrest. Anyway, if you belong in that country, and you're in the situation where Maria was, you'd be terrified. So she really fights and screams, but she's overpowered. However, people around that area notice what is going on, and a very brave city hopper driver tries to block this Noah. He tries it twice. First of all, he reverses right in front of it, but the Noah driver is skillful, and he manages to speed off. So, who are these people who took Maria? Well, there is a telltale clue seated on the front seat of that Noah vehicle, because everybody else in the vehicle is talking English. Maria cleverly sticks to English, but this guy on the front seat is talking Kiswahili, and it is not Kenyan Kiswahili. It is the Kiswahili we find in our neighboring country of Tanzania. But obviously everybody else in the vehicle is Kenyan. Now there is a mystery for you. Was it a Kenyan job or a Tanzanian job? Well, it seems it was a joint operation. The Usalama wa Taifa managed to get some help from this special unit that is abducting Kenyans. Clearly, this case was very different from the case of Ugandan Kiza Besigye. Yeah, because that one had all our security boys involved. This one of Maria, it seems, was a chini ya maji operation. But hey, Usalama wa Taifa, you would have done better. Why didn't you get an officer who speaks English? You gave yourself away. Come on, usalama wa taifa. You can do better than that. You know, I have brushed shoulders with these usalama wa taifa people. There was a time they hated my guts. This is the time of former President John Pombe Magufuli. And make no mistake about it, these people are brutal, but they're also very smart. Because I knew I was under their radar, but I underestimated them. And one day, I was trying to cross the border over to Tanzania, and there was a problem. And imagine, hata wakubwa waliitwa, and finally, I was refused entry. And I know for a fact that the reason was, they knew who I was. Okay? They knew who I was. I don't know how. I have a few ideas, but I don't know for sure. Never underestimate them. But they made a major blunder here. They have competent officers who speak fluent English. Because when you go to a foreign country, you want to be invisible. Yeah, you want to blend in. Isn't that the idea? You don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. Isn't that the idea? Anyway, in the vehicle, they start asking Maria questions. And they snatch away her phones. And the guy speaking in Kiswahili even asks her for her PIN, which she refuses to give. This guy seated at the front is very interested in the contents of her phone. Meanwhile, in the world outside this black Noah, things are happening very fast. You see, Kenyans have been conditioned for abductions. When they happen, most people know exactly what is going on very, very quickly. And so, somebody close to Maria makes contact with the US Embassy in Kenya. Now, that is an important clue. They also quickly make contact with several NGOs. Now, this is interesting because usually there is a process in these things. I mean, there's no way you can pick up the phone and call Amnesty International and immediately get them running all over the place if they don't know who you are, and especially if they don't know what kind of risk you are facing even before this abduction. Get my drift? I'm sure you do. Anyway, all these people are contacted and phone calls are being made all over the place. Now back to the Black Noah. Something interesting is happening. It seems that these abductors are waiting for a call. They're waiting to link up with somebody. And according to Maria, she immediately guessed that they were making contact with somebody or some people who would quickly drive her across the border and back into Tanzania and into the hands of the dreaded usalama wa taifa. Now usually, in case you didn't know, these things are usually carefully pre-planned. Yeah, the vehicle is waiting somewhere, somebody is waiting somewhere, and things are supposed to go like clockwork. And so in this instance, what went wrong? Why did they have to wait? Why did they have to leave the vehicle to talk several times? Why did they have to leave the vehicle and get out of earshot of Maria to talk? Obviously something they did not want her to hear. Why? What was all this about? Well, there can only be one explanation. There was a hiccup with the other vehicle that was supposed to drive Maria back to Tanzania. Now, by now, we all know the drill with these abductions. Yeah, when somebody is taken, give it a minimum of 2 weeks. Okay, if somebody is very lucky, if something major happens, which ends up putting pressure on some people to release, especially those ones whose pictures have been in the newspapers. People making news about them. Okay? Otherwise, it is usually months. Otherwise, it is usually you are never seen again. Okay, we know the drill. But in this particular case, after about 4 hours, Maria Sarungi Tsehai was released. She was dropped off on some side road, and made her way back to the main road. Now, isn't that more than strange? Why was she released so quickly? It would seem that this Tanzanian lady has some very powerful friends, and I suspect somebody had already made prior plans, a kind of drill, for an eventuality like this one. Those are just my suspicions. Anyway, I am sure you'll agree with me. Even with powerful friends, the very fast-paced developments, would have overtaken everything. By the time those powerful friends would have made a few calls, Maria would have already been across the border. And therefore, there is only one very shocking, almost unbelievable conclusion we have to come to here. Okay? And that is, the only way that vehicle that was supposed to speed to the border was stopped, there was only one way of stopping that vehicle, hence causing the delay that Maria was explaining. Only one possibility. And that is, the first call by these powerful people was not made to Kenya. No. It was made to the Usalama wa Taifa. And the request must have been very simple. Stop! Simama mara moja. Wachana! Okay? As crazy as that sounds, that is the only logical explanation. And this gives us another very big clue that we can work with. Okay? Who is powerful enough to make a call to the Usalama wa Taifa in Tanzania and get them to stop the transfer vehicle from moving ahead with the operation? Who? Okay? I leave you to answer that question for yourself. It's quite a simple question. The next call that was made to the authorities in Kenya. Now, based on what we know about this abduction unit so far, do you think that call was made to the IG of police? Do you think that is the person who was called? I don't think so. Do you think for a minute that that call was made to the DCI boss? Tell me. Do you think that is what happened? Of course not. That call went straight to State House. That is what neatly explains this very strange incident. Okay? And I'm sure some of you are screaming at me, Chris, you're not talking about what is important. The image to the international community. Are foreigners going to feel safe in Kenya? Etc., etc. Well, in my opinion, there are a lot of news outlets that deal with those issues. Here on my channel, we deal with what is happening or what was happening in the background, in the back rooms. Because that is where the really important decisions are usually made. I mean, be serious. Nikidiscuss hiyo maneno, mainstream watadiscuss nini? This is what neatly explains what may have happened in this miraculous case where there was an abduction and within 4 hours the person in question was released. Although she was released minus her phones. They had to get something out of the operation. And so I guess the idea is to take the phones back to the head office, Usalama wa Taifa, Dar es Salaam, and to hack into them and to get the information that they're so eager to get. At least kutoka bure kutoka hiyo operation. At least they got something. 2 phones. Okay? Now. You know, the abduction of Kizza Besigye in Kenya is still fresh on the minds of Kenyans. That operation went on smoothly. People complained. People have made noise. And I guess it will not change much. However, we are in the season of exposure. We're in a crazy season. You don't do funny things in this season. This is a very dangerous season to do funny things. Okay? Now, I'm sure this appeared a very simple case. This is only a woman. Just grab her, quickly in, quickly out. Yeah, and back to Tanzania. Mission accomplished. But there were so many challenges. You see, even that area where this operation took place is a very tricky area. There are CCTV cameras all over the place. Many of them private. And therefore you cannot peacefully do something like this, some funny things, and get away with it. This is not Tanzania. This is not Dar es Salaam. And there are a million other things that could have gone wrong. For example, there appears to have been only one policeman in that vehicle. But this is a very important clue about our abduction unit. Clearly, most of the people involved in this operation are not policemen. And therefore there was the huge possibility that the Noah would have been stopped at a police roadblock. And a policeman would have gotten suspicious. Munapeleka ya wapi? Nyinyi ni nani? All that kind of mess. They may even have been arrested. Because policemen don't work alone. Yeah, you can't have just one policeman in a vehicle with other strangers. You have to explain at the station, etc., etc. But the biggest thing that went wrong with this operation, by far, in my opinion, is that it has drawn attention, the attention of the world, to the ongoing abductions in Tanzania. You see, this is an election year in Tanzania. And usually during election years in Tanzania, the ruling party, CCM, usually wananyorosha opposition kweli kweli. They really deal with their competitors. So that by the time the elections are being held, the opposition is exhausted. Exhausted from being arrested on trumped up charges, exhausted from abductions, etc., etc. Now, as a result of this small operation, or what they thought was going to be a small operation, of trying to get Maria Sarungi Tsehai, as a result of this operation, the Tanzanian government, in my opinion, have a new big problem. There is too much attention from the world community on what they are doing in their country, which was not there before this incident. So it is a complete mess up. But hey, we're in the season of exposure, aren't we? What? I would even go as far as saying, what happened in Nairobi the other day over this abduction is the biggest victory the opposition in Tanzania have ever had in the entire history. Yeah? It even rivals the shooting of Tundu Lissu very close to the parliament in Dodoma, Tanzania. Because then it was possible for President John Pombe Magufuli and his government to sell the narrative of we don't know who attacked him. We don't know. We don't know. They had that valuable, plausible deniability. Okay? But in this instance, this is very different. But Kenyans also benefited. You see, what has happened is that this development has lifted up the abduction controversy in Kenya a notch higher as far as attention from the international community is concerned. I am sure you have noticed that the state visits of Kasongo have reduced dramatically. These days, most of his foreign trips are to other African countries or Dubai. Yeah, these big state visits, Britain, Italy, etc., etc., zimeisha. Okay? And the reason is simple. I can imagine a prime minister or a president out there in the West asking their handlers, this president who wants to come to visit is from which country? Kenya. Oh, that's the country where they abduct people. That's the country where they shoot unarmed protesters. Are you out of your mind? You want us to lose the next election? Kwa hivyo, things have changed. Vindu vichenjanga as far as Kasongo state visits are concerned. But now with this latest incident, things have become worse. Hongera, Maria Sarungi Tsehai. Well done. Good job. Keep up the fight for a better Tanzania. Okay? Don't let up. Keep up the fight for a better Tanzania. It'll happen one day. If not in our lifetimes, let our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren enjoy our good work. Now, there is a reason why it is so hard to stop these abductions. It's not a good reason. It is actually something crazy. Okay? And of course, I talk about it in great detail in my very latest special report. Very sensitive information. Moto kuliko pasi 100 ya makaa. And I have some few slots left. So I highly recommend and advise that you rush and take in that special report. This is probably the most significant special report I have ever produced in a long time. You can see details on your screens right now. For only Kenya shillings 3,999, pop, you can have it in your inbox within no time. And please hurry to avoid disappointment. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.